Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. Today we're going to be talking about how to adjust your kids' sleep when you're traveling across time zones. So this is the summer, right? And so you might have a trip planned, or you've already gone on a trip, or you're about to embark on one. And so whether you are traveling across, one, two, or three time zones, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to handle the time changes so that vacation of your dreams does not become a nightmare. Because if you are going on a trip or a vacation and your kids are cranky, the babies are not sleeping, then you get back and you want a vacation from that vacation. So I'm going to be talking about some tips to help us adjust so that everybody's happy to create those memories that you want. Right. So it can be challenging. Handling time changes with kids can definitely be challenging. But then with appropriate planning and a few strategies, I promise you we could get you there. And so we're going to be sharing those tips. Now, if you are new to this channel, again, I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I'm the founder of Restful Sleep MD. And all I'm focused on is helping you mamas sleep well by helping your kids sleep better so that we can thrive and live to our fullest potential. So if you have not subscribed to this channel, I want you to do me a favor and do that. Do that so you don't miss out on all the good stuff. So now, talking about how we adjust to time zones, I think the first thing we have to do is really to be in that pre-planning phase and to think, do I need to make any changes? Honestly, if you're going for a quick trip, maybe a weekend, and you're only going across maybe one time zone, in the sense of, for example, you are in, Philadelphia and you're going to, Chicago, for instance, where there's not too much of a shift. You have to really then decide, is it even worth it? Am I just going to stick with my regular time and we'll just weather it and that's it? That's an option. That is a very valid option, especially if it's just for a few days. And the reason why we talk about this time zones and time changes is that there is that tendency for you and the kids to develop what we call jet lag, right? And it's very uncomfortable. The kids' schedules change. When they're supposed to be sleeping, they're awake. When they're supposed to be awake, they feel sleepy and they're cranky because their schedules are just off. So that could really make for a very miserable experience if we don't go in prepared. So if you do decide, I am not going to change anything, peace out, it's all good, but still stay in and listen, because you might have someone who may benefit from this, or you might plan to have a trip where you are traveling several time zones. So if you're going from the East Coast to the West Coast, for instance, you probably need some strategies in place. So if you are doing that, number one, I would recommend that you do is really try to prepare in advance. So what does that look like? It looks like before the trip, so a few days before the trip, you want to start to gradually adjust your child's sleep to the new time zone, right? You've not traveled yet, but you slowly may start to shift their meal times, their bedtime, so their bodies start to adapt gradually. So that is the first thing. If you can, that would be awesome. If you can't, I got you. So number two is instantly jump into the new time zone, like literally jump in. So you want to adapt as soon as possible. And this may be a little bit tough, especially depending on what time you arrive. If you guys were, sleep deprived before you arrived, if they didn't sleep on the flight, it may get very, very challenging, but there are ways by which you can make that adaptation much easier. Number one is get outside. So get outside, get into light, even from when the plane lands to when you're going to go pick up the rental car. Like, make sure that you're taking advantage of the bright light of your destination. Get those sunglasses off so that you can expose yourself. Of course, you don't want to expose yourself to direct sunlight, right? But still, you want to get out. Even when it's cloudy, the light, as long as it's bright enough, that is sufficient to promote alertness, and it's sufficient to help shift their internal clock or circadian rhythm to help them to adjust to your destination time zone. And the next thing I would say that can help you with adaptation is to commit to the meal times. Now, this is something that's very important because there are different ways by which our circadian rhythm, which is that internal clock that regulates when we're awake, when we're asleep, and it performs so many other functions in our body. The cues that it takes from the outside, one of those cues is light, another cue is meal times, physical activity, social connections. So your meal times for that destination is what I want you to adopt. Don't skip any meals, even if they're starving, but it's not yet like mealtime, like major mealtime at the new time zone. Try to push it. That you may give them a snack or two just to hold them, but you want to start to make that adjustment as quickly as possible. And you do not want to skip any meals because that's going to make them feel really cranky. So if they're very hungry, a little snack, but then you want to save the main meal for the meal times. And again, this will help regulate that internal clock. And then another way by which you can adapt very quickly is to try to commit to the new bedtime. Okay, so what does that look like? It may look like your child being extremely exhausted and it's 4 p.m., right? But bedtime in the new time zone is not till 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So you're going to have to try to push. This is where using the light, this is where physical activity may come in just to distract them, to get them active. Because what you never want to happen is that they go to sleep early because they're tired and you just can't deal with it anymore. And then they wake up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed at 1 a.m. or, some ungodly hours, right? So you want to try to push bedtime to the new time zone as much as possible. Now you have to give yourself grace though, because if you went in sleep deprived or you got up very early to board your flight, they are sleep deprived. So their sleep drive is high and they may just really struggle. So in that situation, you could tell their cues, you could tell like, okay, there's really nothing I could do anymore. It's okay, I'm telling you, for those first 2 nights, to get them into bed a little bit earlier. One, they have a very high sleep drive, so that might actually help them to sleep through. But maybe within an hour of that, of the typical bedtime, you know what I mean? So if you were going to wait for them to go to bed at about 7 p.m. and by 6 p.m. they are extremely exhausted, I think that's okay. But one thing you want to avoid is getting them into bed way too early, because that's just not going to go well most times. And then another thing so we've talked about how to adapt, right? And we've talked really more about how to regulate their internal clock so that their bodies can adjust. But one thing I wanted to bring your attention to as well is naps, okay? So you want to commit to the new nap times, okay? Especially if you have younger ones that still need naps, you want to avoid taking naps based on your old time zone, So essentially that it may need some strategies in place, to make sure that even if they feel exhausted, you're able to push them a little bit so that they can make that adjustment easier. And now they're in a new environment, they're drained, they may be tired. One thing I would recommend is when you're coming, you want to bring things that they're familiar with. So it may be like a blanket, a lovey, it may be like a portable sound machine. If they're used to sleeping with a sound machine, you want to make sure that the bedroom environment is really, really dark, especially for those naps, because that will promote better sleep. Right? So those are some things that you do want to pay attention to as well. And then the fourth thing I would say in terms of making this adjustment is to be flexible. You have to understand that every child is different and every child responds to these adjustments differently. So give yourself grace, right? Plenty grace. Did I mention grace, right? So you know that sleep disruptions, changes in routines are common. They're expected during travel. So, set those expectations, be realistic and be very flexible. Within a couple of days, most times our kids are ridiculously resilient. So be flexible, be adaptable, know that it will get better. But one thing I want to also put in is, I know sometimes, especially when you're going to a place that's like fun and there's so much to do, within those first 2 days, my recommendation for you is to just take it easy. Don't over schedule yourselves. Create a lot of times for breaks, sometimes to relax and just to get you over that, the jet lag and things like that, because that will give you the energy you need to be able to enjoy the other days, rather than just dragging yourselves through that entire experience. So I hope this has been helpful. It's actually possible Okay, it's possible to enjoy the vacation of your dreams without it being a nightmare. And it's possible for your child to actually enjoy time on vacation with family as well. And you can all wake up rested, refreshed, ready to take on new adventures. But one of the things that's so important is that you set a very solid foundation for sleep. And what would be ideal if you are planning a trip, then around now would be a good time to make sure that you have those habits in check, that your child is able to sleep independently, that you created a buffer by making sure they have sufficient sleep. And if you are about to embark on a journey, but your kid's sleep is all over the place and you want to get that right, my suggestion to you is to get in touch with me. Let's connect. Let me help you figure that out. Let's straighten that. Let's set that foundation. Because if not, if they are struggling with their sleep before travel, then sometimes it gets actually worse when they do travel. So it's important that we work on that together. I offer a free consultation. So schedule an appointment with me today so that we could talk through this. I could talk to you about how we could build a schedule, a routine that will facilitate and help you guys sleep the best way possible, because they can learn how to sleep. They just may need the skills, and that's what I'm here for. And my website is the best place to make that connection. It's restfulsleepmd.com. So don't delay, schedule that appointment, and let's get started. Now, I hope this has been helpful. We've talked about a few things already. And so to recap, number one is that you want to make a decision, first of all, if you're going to make any adjustments versus not, depending on how long you're traveling for and how many time zones you're going to cross. Number two is that you want to try to start shifting and making adjustments to adapt to the new time zone, even before you travel, as much as possible. Number three is you want to adapt the new time zone quickly, using light, using meal times, and committing to a consistent bedtime that's similar to the new time zone, right? You don't want to skimp on naps. You want to make sure that they get the naps at the right time. And then finally, you really do want to be flexible. And then I'm going to add in, you want to just get in touch with me so that we could talk through this. We could get you guys sleeping well so you can thrive and have the vacation of your dreams, because you deserve it. I want you to help me by subscribing to this channel, by hitting the like button, and also just sharing it with those in your community so that I can continue to get that word out there. And until next time, I hope you rest well.